Hello friends, it's day 280 and I'm going to cover what's happened today in Ukraine. There's not been a coherent theme today. Like yesterday I was talking all about the energy supply and what was going on with that. Today it's just a number of different updates, but it'll help you keep up to speed with what's going on. So this article So I'm going to start with this article from yesterday. Losing is not an option. Putin is desperate to avoid defeat in Ukraine as anxiety rises in Moscow. And they started with when Russia invaded in February, nobody in President Putin's inner circle believed that the war was going to last this long. It's day 280. So they thought it was going to be over in a couple of weeks, maybe a few days optimistically, not more than a month, certainly. But at this point, they're saying the very fact that Russia is still waging this war, despite its apparent defeats in March, when its forces withdrew from Kyiv, indicate that Putin is desperate not to lose. Losing is not an option for him. If he does lose, he's probably out of power. And if he does lose, at least Russia can blame it all on it was just Putin. But I don't think that's going to change the ambitions of those in the kind of inner circle or at the upper echelons within Russia. At the same time, NATO can't lose either. NATO's foreign ministers made it clear that their continued military support for Ukraine is essential. Why? Because they have to win. They can't let Russia continue to do this or do what they did to Georgia and then do it to Ukraine and then do it to maybe, I don't know, Moldova or whatever. Victory over Russia is a prerequisite for considering Ukraine's membership in NATO. Remember, this is only happening because Ukraine is not in NATO. If Ukraine was in NATO, this would definitely not have been happening. A precondition for considering Ukraine's membership in NATO is its victory over Russia, NATO's Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg said. And he goes on, the Allies must mobilize, or actually this is just the article explaining, the Allies must mobilize as much as possible when it comes to military, economic, financial, humanitarian support for Ukraine. Stoltenberg said that's exactly what NATO officials are doing, and they are, to their credit, doing that. The AFU destroys about 80% of enemy air targets. Now, that could be missiles, that could be drones, it could be, in some cases, some certain artilleries. And so the radio engineering troops of the Air Force detected and tracked more than 240,000 enemy air targets. Okay, again, those could be shells. 16,000 missiles have been fired on Ukraine over the last 9 months, and that's a lot of shelling and targets and whatever. About 80% are destroyed by Ukraine fire weapons. That's impressive. And they go on to say these are hundreds of thousands of saved lives. This is the preserved infrastructure. It's an indicator of the high skills of our soldiers. Now, I can't tell you what the number is. Hundreds of thousands, certainly thousands, maybe tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands. We just don't know because they fired them down. You just can't tell. But it's definitely a good sign for Ukraine, and they're getting better and better at that all the time. Now, what else are they getting better and better at? The shortage of electricity in the Ukrainian power system as of 11 is 27%. Yesterday, I was talking about how it was only 30% short, and the day before, it was 33% short. So we're getting better and better at restoring energy production as well. Dmytro Kuleba, the foreign minister, was speaking about how they can overcome the energy crisis. Now, the problem is the generators or the generation stations are being attacked. So you can use like short portable generators, and you can try to do that. You can try to hook into the European grid. But when you hook into the European grid, he said the first option is to buy electricity from the EU. But the prices on the EU market are much higher than in Ukraine. And that makes sense, right? But the EU is having the same problem. When the EU is buying liquefied natural gas from the US and from Norway and from wherever else, they're paying a higher price than when they were getting it through the Nord Stream pipeline. So this is a common thing for everyone. In this context, Kuleba expressed his gratitude to the United States for providing $53 million for the urgent purchase of energy equipment. And so setting up these small points of equipment, these points of invincibility is what they're called. These tents that have generation capacity, it's helping them be able to sustain themselves. Not a long-term solution, but it's just to get through. Now, Ursula von der Leyen, she made a statement the other day, and this is in Pravda.ru now. Ursula von der Leyen spoke on a video about 100,000 killed Ukrainian soldiers. Now, that disappeared off her Twitter account. So the Pravda is picking that up. As many as 100,000 soldiers since the beginning of the special operation. Now, she is saying, she's repeating what the American chief of Army Chief of Staff or Joint Chiefs said the other day, and he said that it was 100,000 casualties on the Russian side and probably on the Ukrainian side as well. So I think she just mixed up her words a little bit, but this is what RT is running with. And then you see the same thing carried here in Interfax Ukraine. The European Commission explained that the numbers of alleged deaths in Ukraine, which President Ursula von der Leyen mentioned in a video statement, referred to total losses, both killed and wounded, which would be parroting the American Joint Chiefs of Staff, what he said. So that's where that came from. Okay, Finland. Finland says it must ensure that Ukraine wins the war against Russia. I'm not going to scroll down. That's pretty much what it said. But remember, Finland's right on Russia's border. Finland was really nervous when Russia invaded Ukraine because they share a common border as well. So Finland and Sweden joined NATO since the war began, and there's a reason why they were nervous, because Russia is kind of known in the region as the one to be nervous about. I got into an argument the other day with someone on one of my threads. I put up a short about something about Russia, and somebody wanted to argue with me, and I was trying to explain to them, because they were saying that, well, if NATO didn't keep expanding, so stop saying that NATO kept expanding and forced Russians' hand. What actually happened was, because Russia is a known threat, these countries ran to the protection of NATO. They asked, please protect me from them over there, right? That's what was going on. By the way, I also did another short today, and I'd like to hear what you have to say. I keep getting the same kind of Russian trolls saying the same boring things. Don't you know that Zelensky's a Nazi? Don't you know that America caused this war and is using Ukraine as a puppet? Don't you know that it was NATO that forced Putin's hands? So I asked, just kind of out of a joke, okay, so those are kind of boring things. Make up your own Russian propaganda points. Tell me, make up something interesting that I could hear. Put it in quotes so I know that you're making it up, but I'd be really interested in hearing what you would say if you were a Russian troll. So that's just a little aside. Okay, back to the story. Here's one more before we go to fun with Russian state media. Ukraine seeks more NATO aid amid difficult situation. On the line again, they keep coming back to them. Same stuff. So there's nothing really new here. We know that they need more air defense systems. We know that they need more power transformers. And if we can just simply get through this critical winter period and kind of sustain, even if you don't sustain the momentum, even if you just survive, if you survive and move up in the brackets, that's what Ukraine needs to do. For Russia, Ukraine surviving through the winter will be a huge blow. So that's where we are. Okay, fun with Russian state media. Here we go. This was fun. Poland is ready to hold referenda to annex all of Western Ukraine. No, they're not ready to do that. They're not about to do that. Poland has been awesome to Ukraine. And, the two countries have bad blood going back historically, but they both recognize, see that wolf over there? That's a bad wolf. I'm going to protect you, and I hope that you would protect me against that bad wolf over there named Russia. Okay, next, Russian forces take control of Androvivka in Donetsk People's Republic. Okay, so a small town somewhere. I mean, this was not a big thing to my understanding. I looked at it. There's like 6 different Androvikas. I'm not sure which one it is, but none of them look like anything. It's not like a prize like Kherson or something along those lines. And then finally, here's the last one. New Russian McDonald's to have books instead of toys in kids' combos. Okay, this is the first piece of Russian propaganda that I can really get behind. I like the idea. Tasty, and that's it, which is the McDonald's replacement in Russia. In their Happy Meal equivalent, they're going to have kids' combos, and they'll remove toys, and they'll replace them with books. And as you can see from my background here in my office, I like books, so I'm fine with that. I don't know why this is a story, but okay. All right, thank you. That's the update for today, day 280. Thank you for caring about Ukraine.